Hey everyone. Thank you so much for joining today's webinar. I'm Andrea Holterman, and this is my colleague Erica Arbiter, and we're from Google Civics Outreach Team. And today we're going to be talking about digital security and how you and your organization can protect your information online. Erica, perfect. Next slide. So this is our agenda for today. First, we're going to go over some of the built-in protections and tools Google has available for all of our users. Then my colleague Erica is going to talk about some additional tips and tools you can use to add security to you and your organization's information to keep your online presence secure. And then finally, we're going to bring our special guest, Michael Kaiser from Defending Digital Campaigns on for a Q&A. As always, we will have time for questions throughout the presentation, so please do feel free to add your questions below, and we will make sure to get to them during our different Q&A sections. So first, just want to quickly talk about some of Google's built-in protections and security tools that we make available for all of our users. So our automatic built-in protections make the online world a safer place for everyone. We do this by protecting our users at the points where attacks might enter, such as your email address, internet searches, and your app downloads. So a few of these built-in protections are listed here. First is Gmail. So Gmail has automatic spam and phishing protections. 1.5 billion people use Gmail every month, and 5 million paying businesses use Gmail in the workplace as a part of G Suite or Workplace. So good security means constantly staying ahead of threats, and our existing machine learning models are highly effective at doing this. So along with our other protections, this actually helps block more than 99.9% of spam and malware from reaching Gmail inboxes. The next one is safe browsing. So this is our technology that automatically protects 4 billion devices by alerting users when they try to visit risky websites. So to make the internet safer for everyone, we actually made this technology free for other companies to use in their browsers, such as Apple Safari and Mozilla's Firefox. And then the third one is Google Play Protect. So that is Google's built-in malware protection for Android. It scans and verifies 100 billion apps each day to keep your device data and apps safe. It's backed by Google's machine learning algorithms, so it's constantly evolving to match the changing threats. So in addition to those built-in features, we have a lot of tools that any Google user can utilize to make sure that they are protecting their information. So first is our security checkup. Our security checkup is a step-by-step tool that helps protect the security of your Google account with personalized recommendations. You can actually manage which third-party apps have access to your account data, check your saved passwords for security issues, and so much more. Then we have our privacy checkup. So our privacy checkup helps you choose your privacy settings step by step. In just a few quick minutes, you can control what data is used to personalize your experience across Google services. It's really easy to change your privacy settings at any time, and it's just another way we help keep your data private, safe, and secure. The third one is our password checkup. So to give you peace of mind that the passwords that you've saved are secure, we launched Password Checkup, which scans your saved passwords and will notify you if any of them have been compromised. And then finally, we have our password manager. So passwords continue to be a major vulnerability when it comes to online privacy. And actually 66% of people use the same password for more than one account, which significantly increases their risk of personal information being compromised. So to help with that, we built our password manager directly into Chrome, which enables you to really easily create and save strong passwords. It actually syncs to your Google account so you can manage all of your safe passwords in one place. So, that being said, these built in protections aren't enough to protect you from sophisticated targeted digital attacks. So, I'm going to pass it over to my colleague, Erica Arbiter, to talk about how you can protect yourself and your organization online.
Thanks so much, Andrea. That was all super helpful information. So, yes, obviously, those are for all users. Those in the political civic space are really much more vulnerable to these attacks. So, the best way you can protect your organization is by so the best way that you can protect your organization is really by creating this culture of security. This starts by taking responsibility for the data that you have. So that's your email, your accounts across the internet. So there are 4 very actionable things that you can do to keep yourself accountable and keep your whole organization safe and protected. So those 4 things are going to be vigilant of phishing attempts, secure your account, keep your software up to date, and keep important files on the cloud. So the first one, being vigilant of phishing attempts. These are just some of the numbers that prove that the threat of phishing is alive and well. Sophisticated phishing sites trick almost half of all users. And we also want you to know that these hackers are really quick. So once they acquire login credentials, they try to access this account within about 30 minutes. And a lot of times they are effective. So let's take a closer look at these types of attacks. What is phishing? Phishing is a form of social engineering that is used to trick you to reveal your personal information, like your email and your password. The main goal is to get into your accounts and access your information. Phishing, especially in the elections and political space, is often not financially motivated. It's about the disruption of power and malicious intent. You put not only yourself, but your broader organization at risk by not being vigilant and paying extra attention. So looking at this real versus fake page, the page might look like it's a legitimate sign-in page, but it is not. Actually, it is a phishing site. So how do you identify it as such? These are 3 simple checks that we highly recommend you do. The first is, does this URL contain an HTTPS certificate? And that's just at the top if it has a lock. Are the visuals low quality or pixelated? And does something seem off? And then where is the destination URL taking you? You can hover over to see what the URL is in an email before clicking. So if something seems off or it's the different email address from somebody who you know, always just check with them to make sure that they actually sent it before you click on it. And then you can test your smarts and your ability to determine if it's phishing at g.co/phishing quiz. We know that so many people in this space receive so many emails and have to do a lot of their communication online. So we really strongly encourage you to take this quiz after this session. It'll show you a lot of examples of sophisticated phishing emails and also show you how to spot it. It's something that you can share with your colleagues, your office, and other people in your organization to help them spot phishing attacks and keep you and your organization safer. So next, secure your account. Two-step verification is one of the most important things in the cybersecurity space. So with your Google account, you can choose the level of account security with super easy controls. But I will say passwords are only the first line of defense. Two-step verification provides an extra layer of security. So it's a form of strong authentication that requires more than just your username and password when you sign in, like a 6-digit code sent to your phone or generated from the Google Authenticator app. Recently, we have seen that these attackers are becoming more sophisticated and they're able to intercept the 6-digit code. So that's really why we recommend the strongest form of two-step verification, which is a physical security key. So let's take a closer look. Security keys are unphishable technology. So even if an attacker does get your password or intercepts your two-step verification code, they will still need your physical security key to access your Google account. So in addition to the physical layer of security, security keys verify user's identity and sign-in URL. You can purchase a physical security key like our Titan security key on the Google Store or any trusted retailer. You can but you may be eligible for a free Titan security key through our partnership with Defending Digital Campaigns, which we will also cover today. And we will hear from Michael Kaiser, the CEO, in a little bit. So, and then the Advanced Protection Program. So for users that may have a higher risk of targeted online attacks, like campaign, official teams, we created the Advanced Protection Program, and that leverages the powerful phishing-resistant technology of security keys. The Advanced Protection Program provides industry-leading security to protect you across the many, many ways attackers try to access your account, like phishing and malware. The program is free and only requires a security key. So looking a little bit further into the Advanced Protection Program, these protections are added and adapted continually as the threat landscape changes. So these are just some of the features of the Advanced Protection Program. The first, defending against phishing. That's item number 1. As we discussed, sophisticating phishing techniques can trick even the savviest users into giving their private sign-in credentials to attackers. We've seen everybody from Jack Dorsey to other tech and industry leaders get phished, and so even the savviest. The Advanced Protection Program, it verifies that it's really you by requiring a security key when you sign in. An unauthorized user won't be able to sign in without one of your security keys, even if they have your username and password. To date, we have successfully thwarted 100% of phishing attempts on accounts enrolled in the Advanced Protection Program. So that is a number that I always say I'm going to have to update it if we do have a successful phishing attempt, but to date, it has been 100% effective. So the next pillar of the Advanced Protection Program is it prevents fraudulent access to your data. So when you sign up for a new app or service, sometimes you're asked to give data to in your Google account. So like it might ask for you to turn on your location or give access to your drive or your contacts. Usually this doesn't pose a risk, but some attackers, and we're seeing it actually increasingly now, are able to compromise or impersonate a third-party app or service to gain access to that data. So the Advanced Protection Program only allows only Google apps and verified third-party apps to have access to your Gmail and your Google Drive files. And then last but not least, it helps block malware. So attackers use many strategies to get users to download harmful software. Google Chrome protects all users against malware, but Advanced Protection adds even a stronger layer of defense. So if you attempt to download a risky file, you'll receive an additional warning, or the download may even be blocked. So for Android users, Advanced Protection also prevents installation of unknown apps sourced outside of the Play Store that may be harmful. So even if you do share your information with an app, or you put your information on a fake sign-in page, like the example we saw earlier, the Advanced Protection will block your information from being shared. So how do you enroll? You enroll at g.co/advanced protection. If you have G Suite, we highly recommend enrolling that account into APP today. If many times you may have sensitive information on your personal Gmail account as well. So to get full security, you can enroll your personal Gmail as well. Please reach out to us at civics-outreach@google.com if you have any questions or you want to enroll. Otherwise, you can go ahead and get your physical security key today. And then, as I mentioned, the partnership with the Defending Digital Campaigns. So we are super proud of this. Through this partnership, we are able to provide eligible campaigns and eligible campaigns access to free Titan security keys, which is the strongest form of two-step verification. We are working with this bipartisan organization to help make all qualifying campaigns safer and make it easier for people to enroll in our advanced protection program. So the next action item we recommend is keeping your software up to date. So when we find new vulnerabilities, we fix them. Oftentimes, bugs that make headlines have already been fixed, but people haven't updated their software. Auto updates protect you from those situations. When you receive a trusted notification that a software update is available, install it as soon as possible. You should periodically review the software that you run on your desktop and mobile devices to make sure you are running the latest versions available. Also, if you have an app that you don't use, won't update, go ahead and delete that. Make sure you are always running the latest version of your mobile apps and visit the settings in your app store to enable auto updates. Definitely, like if it's from a restaurant that you used to live by and you no longer go there all the time, delete the app. It is just giving attackers a window and it's making you more vulnerable. So back up important files. This is the last piece. In previous election cycles and in previous years, advice has been to back up everything all the time. With cloud backups, that guidance has changed. So not everything needs to be backed up on the cloud because that makes files more accessible. The general best practice here is to make sure unimportant, personal, or potentially embarrassing content on your phone is encrypted. Figure out what's important and what you need to access at any time, back up those files to the cloud, and then delete the less important files. So if somebody sends you a joke or a photo or something like that, and you would not want that to be accessed by somebody else on the cloud, go ahead and delete it. Or make sure it's encrypted. But with that, if you have any additional questions, please make sure to contact us. This is civics-outreach@google.com.
All right. So I think we're going to answer some questions live right now in the chat. So make sure you drop them down below if you have any questions. But Erica, I have a question here. It says, in our office, we use a shared Google account to house our YouTube channel and other accounts. Can we use a security key for a shared account too?
You not only can use a shared account with your security key, you can have multiple keys on one account, or you can have multiple accounts for one key. So if you want to have a shared account and you wanted to have security keys for that account, you can label them. So as a member of your staff leaves or transitions to a different role and they don't need that access anymore, you can go ahead and remove them as the administrator.
Awesome. Awesome. That's really helpful, especially as people are looking to set up their accounts and especially making sure that they're safe too. Andrea, I see another question here. What should you do if you think you got a phishing email? Oh.
I was muted. That's a great question.
Happens, you know?
So you can actually do 3 really simple checks for it. You can first see whether or not the URL contains an HTTPS certificate. If it doesn't, that's probably a red flag. 2, see if the visuals are low quality and pixelated. That could also be a telltale sign for a phishing email. And then 3, see where the destination URLs are taking you. You can actually hover over the URL to see where it's taking you before clicking on it. But first and foremost, I would say when in doubt, just pick up the phone and call the person to just make sure, hey, did you send me this email? That is definitely a good fail safe if you're not sure.
I will say that is something we saw a lot in this past year of somebody knew who somebody's boss was and then would create, let's say their boss was a guy named John Smith. They would create, John asmith@yahoo.com and then email them a link that would, and if you didn't know your boss's personal email, right, you would just assume. So definitely make sure, if you aren't familiar with the email address it's coming from, absolutely double check with the sender.
Absolutely. And I know of some of those common names too. Just make sure you check of all the John Smiths you may know, because one John Smith may not have sent you that, but another one who also knows you may have sent that. We've also seen that too. So make sure you check in. So I see another question here from Josh, and he asks, can the password manager be used as a way to distribute updated passwords to the entire organization?
So that would be if you have a shared Google account. So as the passwords.google.com does sync with your Google account, the password manager is a great place if you are using a shared account. But if you are, as we mentioned, using a shared account, I really, really recommend having these physical security keys attached to it.
Awesome. Like I said, if you guys have any more questions, make sure to drop them in the chat below. We'll be answering them throughout and also at the end of the presentation. So now I'm going to kick it back to Andrea, and we're going to get to the next part of our presentation.
Thanks, Maria. I'm very excited to welcome on Michael Kaiser from Defending Digital Campaigns. Hey, Michael.
Hey, how are you?
Good. So just to give a quick introduction of Michael, so as the president and CEO of Defending Digital Campaigns, Mr. Kaiser leads the effort to bring free and low-cost cybersecurity products and services to federal campaigns and national parties, as well as committees. DDC has partnered with more than 30 companies and has helped more than 180 campaigns improve their cybersecurity. Mr. Kaiser has worked in cybersecurity and privacy for over 12 years and was previously the executive director of the National Cybersecurity Alliance from 2008 to 2018, where he built one of the leading cybersecurity private partnerships, working with industry leaders, government officials, including the White House and civil society. He substantially expanded NCSA's signature program, National Cybersecurity Awareness Month, and created and grew Data Privacy Day, Cyber Secure My Business, and the Stop, Think, Connect campaign. So Michael, thank you so much for joining us today. We're thrilled to have you on to talk about the good work DDC has been doing in the cybersecurity space.
Thanks for having me. Really thrilled to be here and really appreciate the work we've done in the past and the work we're doing going forward. It's a great collaboration.
Yeah. So first and foremost, what is Defending Digital Campaigns and how did it come to be?
Yeah, so DDC is a nonprofit. We're actually a C4. You'll understand why in a second, why we might be that. So DDC came about in a very interesting evolution. Right after 2016, some of you, maybe most of you will remember, there were some incidents involving cybersecurity in that election. After that election, a group of folks got together at Harvard. We're not associated with Harvard, DDC isn't, but the folks who founded DDC got together there with the Belfer Center, and they created a couple of playbooks. They created a cybersecurity playbook for election officials, and they created a cybersecurity playbook for campaigns. They came out of that process, and some of the leaders of that are folks that you might know, Robbie Mook, who was Hillary's campaign manager, and Matt Rhodes, who was Mitt Romney's campaign manager, were part of this process. Veteran campaigners, been down in the trenches, done it all. And they're like, this is all great. We have this playbook, but the playbook says that we should tell campaigns to go out and buy cybersecurity products. And they're like, that's not going to happen. So they got together, both Robbie and Matt and a couple other folks who later became the founders on our board. And they got some lawyers here in DC. They got a Republican law firm. They got a Democratic law firm. We are a bipartisan, non-aligned organization. We have some partisan folks who we work with, but under our roof, we're all in it for everybody to be more secure and protect the democracy. So they got some lawyers together. They went to the Federal Election Commission, and they made the argument that the security and the cybersecurity of campaigns is critical to our national security. It's critical to having a fair democracy, and that they didn't think that campaigns were going to buy this stuff, and companies weren't allowed to donate things directly to campaigns in the way that would be useful for campaigns. So why couldn't there be a way for folks to make those contributions directly to campaigns through an organization like DDC? Took a while, but the FEC approved it, and that's how we came to be. That all came to fruition in late 2019, so 2020 was like our first cycle.
Mm. So these resources, what are the resources that DDC is offering to eligible campaigns?
Yeah, so we really focus on the basics. I mean, our goal is to bring a suite of services to campaigns that obviously have a huge impact on their cybersecurity, for one, and also are relatively easy to use too. We understand, and those of you watching this probably understand better than I do, because you've probably been in the trenches doing campaigns at some point, or maybe you haven't, or you've at least been around them, that campaigns don't have a lot of bandwidth when it comes to do extra stuff that's not really directly related to getting their message out, getting their candidate out, and being in the marketplace of ideas, and talking to their communities. So we really focus on the basics, right? Security keys, like you just heard, discussed, really, really important. Using security keys with advanced protection, or if you're a Windows shop, with Account Guard, right? Getting those keys in, getting them set up, using them across all the different areas that those keys might be useful. We can talk about that maybe a little bit, where else you can use them. We focus on protecting the websites of the campaigns themselves. Campaign website, critically important. Obviously, that's where all the information about your candidate is. It's also might be your interface to fundraising. A lot of candidates use those websites to provide information about where to vote and when, what time you can vote, and those kinds of things. So vital connection to their constituency. Protecting those are really important. They are actually, in the 2020 cycle, we saw some issues around attempts to deface websites, and also what are known as distributed denial of service attacks, which are attempts to crash websites by just overloading them with traffic so they don't work anymore. So we work on that. The other thing we work on, the other sort of basic that we think is really important, is some form of encrypted communications. This could be, many of you probably use Signal, right? There's also things like Wicker. There's a bunch of them out there. But creating a channel of communications within the campaign that is outside of email. Sure, if you're using advanced protection and all those things with Google, you've really protected your email, but there are often times that you want to communicate outside of that channel. You just don't want those things preserved. You don't want copies of documents sitting, in your drive. You want, things might have a short shelf life. A lot of these are self-destructing after a certain amount of time. So we really focus on that. We have a bunch of other tools that we also provide around different kinds of things, but those core things are really important. And the good news is, I think the big resource that we have, in addition to being able to provide free keys, for example, from Google, is we can help people turn them on in their campaign. So we have an onboarding specialist who will work with a campaign and make sure you get them turned on. And, and we're happy to do that. And we did that for a lot of campaigns.
Yeah, so I know you mentioned there's a bunch of accounts and usernames that folks should be protecting on their campaigns. Who on the campaigns do you all suggest prioritize cybersecurity? Is it just the people at the top, or is it everyone from the candidate to the volunteers?
Yeah, really good question. And this is something where campaigns differ than most organizations, right? So I know there's a lot of people on here who maybe work at the house, right? You have a house email and you have a personal email, right? And there's a lot of separation between those two things. Campaigns don't operate that way, right? There's a lot of personal work that gets done on campaign email. I mean, personal emails get used for campaigns. But here's how you have to think about this, because there's also a differentiation. When you're working on the House, or you're working in the Senate, or you're working in an organization, you're a part of that cybersecurity for that organization. Campaigns have looser borders. I like to call them squishy perimeters. In cybersecurity, we also talk about protecting the perimeter. Well, what's the perimeter of a campaign? They're really squishy, right? Because you have the candidate absolutely has to be protected. You have the top staff absolutely has to be protected, right? But the candidate may have a spouse or partner. The candidate may have children. Bad guys are going to try to come in wherever they can. So if, the spouse of the candidate, is going to have a personal email how can they figure out that personal email, phish them to get credentials to phish the campaign, right? Maybe the candidate has a kitchen cabinet. Maybe they have a confidant, their best friend from college who knows everything about what they do, reads every draft of every policy statement that's going out, right? To help them figure out what to do. They could be a target. So you have to really think about your campaign. Who's involved in our campaign, right? What about key volunteers? How much access do they have to important information? Who has information about what we're doing in this campaign? So it's not just like I'm a staff person, I'm I'm the candidate. It's you have to understand their engagement in the campaign and the people, and from our perspective, protecting people on a campaign, like how we can provide resources, it's around those things, right? We can provide, for example, security keys to a spouse and children because they're going to be a vector of attack, or a kitchen cabinet member, or a key volunteer, or if a state party assigns people to work with you in your campaign, to those people as well. So it's really being thoughtful about who's really in the campaign.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think a lot of times, having worked in campaigns myself, you might hop around to a few different campaigns. You're only there for a few months. It's functioning the same way a startup is. So why should people in this space, especially those working in politics, prioritize adopting some of these cybersecurity tools?
Yeah. So there's several answers to that, but the simplest one is if you're working on a campaign, you're a target. Full stop. Right? People trying to harm our democracy or harm your candidate are going to go after you, right? Just because you're there, and because criminals, cybercrime, whether it's cyber criminals, nation states, they're going to look for the lowest hanging fruit and the lowest entry point. A lot of this is opportunistic. I think, as Erica was talking earlier, about, trying to get into people's accounts, it's opportunistic, right? Maybe they think, oh, well, this person, maybe their personal account has lower security than their campaign account. So why don't I go after them personally? Or I've tried to get into all these other people's accounts and I didn't. So I'm just going to keep working my way down the list until I get to you, right? So just know that you're a target, and not in the same way that you are just as a general consumer, right? I mean, a lot of the stuff we talk about, cybersecurity, protect against this, protect against phishing, that's sort of kind of this widespread, threat that's out there for everyone, right? We're all potentially at threat to a lot of different cyber things. It's kind of overwhelming. Someone I used to work with used to call it the haze of threat, right? Which is just kind of all around us, which is really true. I mean, and that can be, overwhelming in and of itself. But know that once you move into a position where you're identifiable and association with a political process, that changes your profile in the world. And that's why you're at risk.
Mm. So, sort of in practice, how do you suggest folks work these cybersecurity best practices into their daily lives, in addition to all of the other jobs and hats they have to wear on campaigns?
Well, I mean, there's a couple of different ways. First of all, you just got some really great advice from Google about how to protect your Google accounts. And you really need to take that advice seriously. That's step one. I mean, and cybersecurity, there's a couple of adages in cybersecurity, some universal truths. But one of the most important one is that you're only as strong as the weakest link in any organization. And you do not want to be that weak link, right? You do not want to be the person with password 123 as your password on your, personal Gmail account, right? Because you'll be hacked in a moment. I don't think it's that hard to work this in. Some of the stuff is kind of set it and forget it, right? If you're using a password manager, like, in Chrome, and you create a really good, strong password and you have Chrome remember it, you've done it, right? It doesn't take a lot of time. Once you have a security key and you get that implemented and you set up advanced protection, you're not going to get bugged for that key every time you log in. It's going to remember a lot about your behavior. You keep logging into the same computer from the same IP address, over and over and over again. It's not going to ask. You take that computer from Washington and move to Chicago, it's probably going to say, oh, well, wait a second, you weren't in Chicago yesterday. So you're setting these things up, you're putting these things in place, and they're going to happen over time. You're going to set your, software to update automatically, right? It's going to happen. right? So those are really important things, and they don't take a lot of time. And I mean, look, we do a lot of things. We drive cars. You got to change the oil every once in a while. I mean, these are just things you have to do in order to be safe and secure. I'll be honest. I think it's fair to say that security hasn't always been the most convenient thing in the online world, and I think that's something that we all have to work on to make it easier. But when you hear the tools, for example, that we're talking about today, those are, I mean, when I started, in cybersecurity, no, first of all, most of this stuff didn't even exist. Secondly, it was much, much harder, right, to do this stuff. I mean, every update you had to like do it yourself and, download it, and it took an hour, and, it was just, really horrible, but it's so much faster now. So I think that time should not be a factor in this, but still, a lot of the responsibility falls on the individual user. And that's
Yeah.
just something that you have to accept.
Yeah, and I think the theme here is that it's going to be a lot easier and less stressful to do it on the front end and do it proactively than to sort of have to react to any potential threats that come in when you're at the finish line and you haven't prepared for it.
Oh, I mean, totally. And I mean, think about it this way. So you're on a campaign, right? And you truly believe in your candidate, right? I mean, this is the person who you want to be representing you and, your community, in the government in Washington. You don't want to be the person, right, that messed that up. Let's just make it that blunt, frank, right? And I'm not, and by the way, I say that, but even with everything you do, a lot of cyber incidents are not the fault of the user, right? I don't think it's always the user's fault. I mean, the bad guys are really good, right? And our adversaries are very smart, and they're very crafty, and they're constantly upping their game. So, I'm not playing like let's blame the users here, but you really want to be protecting your candidate, right? Because that's part of what you're doing here. It's not just protecting yourself. And you're right. You're absolutely right. Look, a cyber incident can be an awful, messy thing. It can, it can cost a lot of money to fix it. It can put computers down for a while. Would you want to have a campaign that got hit by ransomware 2 days before election day and then couldn't access their voter data? I mean, there's some real life consequences to some of the stuff in the campaign world, which would, be very significant.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember you mentioned earlier sort of talking about that haze of threat. I think it can be overwhelming, all of the things that people need to protect, all the potential threats. So given that folks are in politics are usually at a higher risk for many different targeted digital attacks, what is one piece of advice you would give to them on security, or sort of one action item you think is really important for them to take?
Yeah. So I believe that the most important thing you can do is to make access to your accounts as secure as possible. And that starts with the highest form, which you've already been learned about today, which is like on Google, advanced protection with a security key. That is, if you can do that and that's all you can do, then you've done a ton, right? This is really important. And now you go through your accounts. Okay, so you got your Google account advanced protection. Great, right? Now you have a security key. By the way, that security key also might work, it does work on Twitter and Facebook, right? So now you can harden those accounts even more, right? So maybe there's some sites that don't allow you to use a key, right? Then you have the good password. But really go through and if you can't do it, and it can be overwhelming. And people, I don't know how many accounts people have, 40, 50, 80 accounts, right? So you can't do that all. So do what we do in cybersecurity, which is do risk management. Start with the accounts that create the most risk. Your email account is so important because that's where you reset your password if you forgot it. So if I get into your account and I go to your other account and it says forget password, I'm going to click on that and I'm going to get into the inbox that I now own, the way to reset the password and get into the account, right? Email, critically important. Social, critically important, right? Social, especially if you're on a campaign, because if you're also someone who can post on the candidate's the campaign's, Twitter or Facebook account, now I'm in your account and now I can do real damage, right, on the public side. So use, a risk management approach. When you get down to the site that you're registered for, just to get recipes, and they don't have your credit card and they don't have anything but your email address, okay, go easy. You're fine, right? Because there's not much, the loss factor is very low. So think about where the damage can be done and act as strongly as you can in those circumstances.
Awesome. Well, Michael, thank you so much. This has been incredibly enlightening. And I'm going to bring Erica back on to take some audience questions for you.
Yeah, no. So Michael, we have one question. The first one is, if I'm on the official side, so let's say one of our audience members who asked this is on the official side, can their boss take advantage, or the boss's campaign take advantage of DDC's offerings and resources?
Absolutely. So we do have some basic eligibility requirements, which are campaigns have to have raised $50,000 for the House or $100,000 for the Senate. Anybody who's already an incumbent, probably crossed that threshold a long time ago. And the only requirement that we have really is that the request actually comes from someone in the campaign, right? So it's the campaign has to ask for it. No one on the official side can ask for it. I mean, there may be some dual-hatted people, which is fine, but they need to ask from their campaign email address, right, for the assistant.
So it can't be like from their Gmail. It should be from the domain that is their campaign website.
That would be the best. I mean, it could technically be from their Gmail as long as there's proof that they're from the campaign, acting on behalf of the campaign, CCing the campaign manager in the request for that would be fine with us. As long as we can certify that it's coming from the campaign, we'll be good. But if they have the domain, which most of them probably do, awesome, even better.
That's super helpful. And Andrea, did you have?
Yeah, I think I see another question from the audience is, how can folks who are eligible to receive support and resources from DDC contact you all? And how do they know if they are eligible?
So as I mentioned, there's the financial contribution level. So they can do that. They can also just email us at info@defendcampaigns.org. And, that's where those all come into, and we'll just have a chat. We can check your eligibility. We'll look at the FEC to double check if you don't know, and we'll find out and we'll work with you from there. And the way we usually do this, especially now, like right now, where it's a little bit slower, we like to hop on the phone call with someone and just go through and see what we can, provide to you that will make sense. But if for example, I just want Google Titan keys, we can make that happen, in an email exchange as well. So we try to be very, very speedy. We want to see this stuff up and running as soon as possible. Again, if there are issues like, well, we got the keys, but we don't know how to turn them on, we'll help you do that.
That was going to be my next question, Michael.
Oh, okay.
In the audience, but just let's say they get the keys and then you're there for full support, right? Yeah,
I mean, security is no good if you don't use it. I mean, if you got the key and it sits on your desk in a box, you don't open it, it's nice, but that's fine, but it doesn't really work. So yes, we're there to help, and we have a lot of different ways. And actually, interesting, COVID actually helped us sort of expand the way that we can help people, right? So we were able to, because so many people were remote, our original notion pre-COVID was, we'll send people keys and we'll get everybody in the conference room and we'll have a video call and we'll, tell everybody at the same time, right? Well, that didn't work so well in COVID, and campaigns, we're hiring people left and right. And so we really have kind of a distributed way. We have a video we can send people that show them how to turn it on. But we have done things like hold video, Zoom calls for a campaign, run them through turning on the keys until everybody gets their key working, right? They get their key working, they drop off the call. There can be a little anomaly here or there. Somebody has, something has to change, or they just didn't click on the right thing in the right order. And we'll work with people, hold their hands, and get this turned on. That's how important it is, really, that you have to get it working correctly.
Well, thank you. I think you covered so much. No stone left unturned. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Any parting thoughts, Andrea, Michael?
I would just say, feel free to come to our website, defendcampaigns.org, and get more information. Reach out to us at info@defendcampaigns.org. On our website, on the homepage, you can join our email list. We're going to be going around the country. We're going to be doing trainings. We're going to be out there more. We're going to really build in 2021 to 2022. We want to be in contact with folks early. Getting your campaign set up correctly from day one is really going to, save a lot of heartache later. And so just, let's open up the dialogue, and we'll be there to help you.
Especially in the off year, when there aren't fires to put out, when there is some time to really get the ducks in a row, recess or August, definitely those are the times to make sure everything is set. And so it's not the campaign ramping up next spring and you're all trying to figure out how these security keys work. You're comfortable with them, how they work, all of your stuff is secure and locked down. So contact Michael sooner rather than later.
But even if you're late, we'll help you.
Yes.
Awesome. Well, thank you again so much, Michael. This has been invaluable. And I think we're going to bring up a slide to show how you can, there it is, how you can contact the Civics Outreach team. It's civics-outreach@google.com. And then Defending Digital Campaigns, just defendcampaigns.org. And then, Michael, I think you said info@defendcampaigns.org is another great way to reach you all. I think that's it that we're seeing for questions. If anybody has any final questions, please feel free to add them below. But otherwise, this has been great, and I will pass it back over to Maria.
Awesome. Great job, everybody. I feel like I learn a lot every time I hear you guys talk about security. I just want to make sure that everybody is invited to our next training. We'll be talking about YouTube next month. So same day of the week, Thursday, 3 p.m. Eastern, just like this one. But on Thursday, April 8th, we'll be hosting a training about YouTube. So make sure to join in then. But until then, make sure you reach out to both civics-outreach@google.com and also Defending Digital Campaigns. Thanks so much for joining today, and we'll see you guys soon.